Let's welcome everyone to today's EnviroPet Waste Network webinar. Our organization's mission is to connect people to information, therefore supporting pet waste disposal methods that are kinder to the planet. In case you're not familiar with our organization, you can find more information about what we do online at EPWN.org. So our initials.org, pretty simple. My name is Fabiana, and I am one of the board members at EnviroPet Waste Network, and I will be your host today. This webinar was initially going to be hosted by Ryan Torres, who is the Vice President of Park Operations with Battery Park City Authority, but she was unable to join us. In alignment with our organization's mission, today we're bringing to you a presentation about the dog waste composting project done at Hillside Dog Park. The trial for this project was started in 2022 as an experiment in sustainability, giving visitors the option of picking up their dog waste with a scooper instead of a plastic bag and then depositing it into a collection bucket for composting. The project is maintained by Friends of Hillside Dog Park volunteers, and this group has the support of a city council member, the city parks, and the Brooklyn Heights Community Association. So I wanted to introduce you to the person who's championing this initiative. Our guest today is Cathy Clarke. She's the lead compost project volunteer at Friends of Hillside Dog Park. Cathy works in the communications department at Mount Sinai Health System, and you will see her adorable terrier named Tu in some of the presentation slides that you see here today. Thank you for joining us today, Cathy.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Great. And I also have Rose Seaman, one of our co-founders of EPWN, helping us with the technical part of this webinar. So thank you, Rose, for all the background work. So Cathy, please join me in this conversation. Tell us, right? How long have you been involved with Friends of Hillside Dog Park? And tell us a little bit about the park and how this project idea got started.
Sure. I've been involved. I've been a dog owner and park goer for 20 years, but I became more involved with the Friends of Hillside right post-COVID. I would say in late 2021, early 2022. What happened there was the city locked down all the dog runs, and then we noticed Hillside went by the wayside as far as care, wood chip delivery, just basic maintenance. And we were trying to reach out to the original Friends of Hillside to reboot the organization. They had all moved out of the city. So myself and about 5 other people decided to reboot the Friends of. And that's how I became, starting as a very casual dog park user, just going there and assuming, oh, it's being maintained beautifully. And then one day realizing, oh, it's in disrepair. Let's get a little community going here. But let me give you a little quick overview. It's a very large dog run. It borders the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. And the property was left over when they were building the expressway, believe it or not. And some dog lover, council person, dog lover in the area, they had this leftover land, and she went to Parks Department and she said, let's make it a dog run. So that's where we have this beautiful 1.4 dog run. Unfortunately, it borders the BQE, which is that's why our trees are very important. Anyway, it's 1.4 fenced in area, both large dogs, small dogs. We have 98 trees. We have picnic tables. We have benches. We have water fountains. We even have a pool. Our visitors average between, depending on weather, it says between 50 and 100, but I'm going to say on a beautiful summer day, definitely 100. During the winter, it was a very cold winter in New York City, so we did not have that many. We had maybe 50, even on the weekends. So how it got started, I met people from a really great organization called Big Reuse, which worked closely with the sanitation department. And I heard that they were doing these tree care events. And I thought, oh, let's learn about how to care for our trees. We have a lot in the park, but we also have a lot outside the park that were neglected. And it was a really hot summer day. And I set this, I think I reached out to someone from Big Reuse. We put together this little event sponsored by the Brooklyn Heights Association. And people from all over the city came again on a really hot summer day to weed, rake, put in composting around the base of the
Wow.
trees. And that's when I suddenly realized I love trees and we got to take better care of them. And you see, the green arrow is our council person, Lincoln Rensler, who stopped by. That's me dressed appropriately for weeding and caring for our trees. But you can see us working away. This event was for the trees outside. So here again is a little bit more of our volunteers. Again, I was just very impressed how many people showed up. On the left, it's our volunteers within the park. Again, that's me and Lincoln Retzler, the arrows. And the green guy is our Jamie, our amazing parks director. He comes by a lot. He observed one day that, wow, we have a really dedicated group of volunteers at this park. I'm going to help them out any way I can. So making a good connection with the council person and the parks department is key for these kind of initiatives that I was starting. Because when I ask for wheelbarrows and I ask for rakes and they follow up with me because they see we're a dedicated group of volunteers. And you can see, again, that's our big use people on the right there, and just complete strangers throughout the city came out and joined us to take care of our trees. And that's my dog in the bottom right-hand corner. Very small dog, doesn't give off a lot of waste, but
Uh,
he he does chip in.
And Kathy, I understand it was the New York Brown Beans program that got you interested in doing
Right, correct.
composting, right?
Yes. And that through big reuse. Because
Uh-huh.
when they came, they brought forms for buildings to start to sign up for the brown bins. They also gave out free compost buckets and free bags of compost. So that's when I had an idea. Here we are within the park, a lot of park volunteers. We were purchasing, we okay, big reuse when they're giving away compost. They said, we're going to bring like 3 pallets of compost. Whatever is left over is yours. We're like, great, bring as much as you want. So after the event, we had a bunch of compost left over from big reuse. And here we are spreading it around the base of our trees. We have an erosion problem. As you can see, we're on a hill, so every time it rains, everything goes to the bottom. So we were putting the compost to kind of help our little trees and fill in the ruts near the roots. So there we are. You can tell we're happy to be outside. And then we had the idea came up, and it was circulating the area. It's like, you can, with big reuse, they told me a lot of their compost was made from horse manure. And I'm like, we should think about composting our dog waste. And that's when I somehow, and my brain is not great, somehow I got connected with the Battery Park City folk. I think I emailed them. I was working with Jasmine there. She said, come by and look at our tumblers and how we do it. I got on my bike, rode over the Brooklyn Bridge. And so they had a really nice little setup there. The only thing they have that I don't have, they have full-time people. It's just me. They had an electric source. I don't. So the way they compost, they collected the dog waste. They put it in these cylinders that would spin and also heat it. And that that I couldn't do. I had to look at a more smaller scale. My pilot program was looking at something that was off grid, didn't need electricity, smaller scale. But I'm still interested in, let's see how we can get this going a little more off the grid is the only word I can think of right now. But you can go, oh, then I'll just say I brought it up with the Brooklyn Heights Association. I brought it up with our council person, Lincoln Rensler, and he said, without hesitation, I would totally support that initiative, meaning
hmm.
give us, oh, there they are. There's our friends. And you can read should I read their quotes or
Yeah.
who's better? Friends of Hillside, it's a tremendous group, can do group of neighborhood volunteers. I love when it says that. The composting program is an impressive solution for pet waste. They're helping reduce landfill waste. minimize groundwater pollution, and create a healthy compost to improve our soil quality within our dog run. That's Lincoln, who's amazing, by the way. And then here's Kim, who came to me and said, what do we do about all this dog poop on the streets in Brooklyn Heights? I said, I can't help you with that, but let's try to do something within the dog park. And that's when she said, great, we'll give you money as well. So we got money, which I was very happy to get. How we use this money. Okay, first we started with a little education. That sign in the middle, I totally ripped off from Battery Park City. We just added a few of our little things. So it just basically says, here's how you use it. Please, only newspaper or the scoopers to put the dog waste in our little, see our
Bin.
little bin. And we have our Melissa and Vito showing how it's done. So behind them, you see the conventional garbage buckets that people usually put their dog waste in, which attracts rats and smells horrible. But we have these nice little enclosed things. You just put a few wood chips on the bottom, and then people just start putting in there with the scoopers, put in dog waste. And once a week, we empty them out. And on the left side here, you see these are spinners. So once these things are full, the bins, we move it over to our little spinners. And I would say we fill one spinner, I would say every 2 weeks. And then we move to the next spinner. We actually have 4 of these. So it's the dog waste goes in these spinners with some enzymes. And every day I usually walk over and give them a little spin. And when they're full, I seal them off and I let the waste in there sit for 6 to 8 weeks. And then we move to the next one. And then once 8 weeks starts, you open it up and it's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle. This beautiful black, rich, odorless substance that's poured out. And I put it in this little wheelbarrow here. I think on the left, you see a little bucket. I empty it into that and then bring it over to this. I call this my little cooker. It's the black and orange thing. And I pour it in there. And then I have a thermometer in there. And okay, we have a problem. I'm in New York City and I don't have electricity. This is where electricity will come in handy. I just have to let the sun cook it. And in the winter, it slows it way down. But in the summer, you open that thing and it can get up to 120, never hit 130, but it gets very close to, it's 120, 125. Then when it gets 125, that little orange thing at the bottom, I open that drawer, I pull out some at the bottom, take my little wheelbarrow, and then I put it into a final compost resting hill. And I think that's on the next slide. Oh, there it is. There we go. So here you get my spinners, my little wheelbarrow, which is dedicated to dog compost only. My cooker, I call it, the orange and black thing. And as you see, it's along this fence. See the BQE there? Dogs really, that's just a area that, who wants to be by the BQE? So we have the luxury of utilizing this space over here that for my dog compost stuff. So here's its final resting area. And then I put it there, and then I took a gallon sample of it, put it in a Ziploc bag, and sent it off to Florida to be tested. Still sitting there. And then I don't know if we talked about testing. It just sits there. It's been sitting outdoors for a long time. Shipped it off to Florida to be tested. And it came back pretty good, but we had 3 A's and 2 B's. And because of the 2 B's, we're letting it sit there for another season. And I'm going to let it sit there probably through the end of this summer, send it off for one more testing, and then we should be good to go to start spreading it along the BQE fence to take care of our trees here. Okay, so used for erosion control and immense soil around the trees. So right now, we're going to wait for our final test to come back from Florida. And I got the lab info from Battery Park City. I hope that's clear. And also, I want to let you know that in the summer, both in that cooking bin and my hill, I have amazing worms. I actually had a big sprouting of mushrooms. Right now, for some bizarre reason, I have some daffodils growing in that area. It's fascinating. What's now blossoming over there. And again, if anyone saw the soil, I every now and then I bring people over there. I'm like, this was once dog poop, and they're like, wow, that's amazing. On the top of the hill, I do cover it with wood chips, which I get from the city. Hill looks pretty small here, but it's pretty, I'd say it's like 2 feet high. That's my equipment. All purchased from Amazon. Sorry, but I had to, and I'm a non-for-profit, so I don't pay any taxes with them. But these buckets I love because there's no plastic involved. You get this little bucket that that once a week you just pull it up, and I dump it in my spinners. And I love these scoopers. I even as a park user, in the past, when I saw dog poop on the ground, I would just ignore it. But with these scoopers, you just come along, scoop it up and put it in my little bin, and it becomes black gold eventually. Those are my spinners. I have four. I have two of these. So you see the green one, fill it up. Once it's full, I seal it off, let it sit for 6 to 8 weeks. Use this side, let it 6 to 8 weeks. I go to the other side of the park, 6 to 8 weeks, and then once 8 weeks or more or less is I open it up, put it into the cooker. So that's my system. And again, this is a pilot program. There's no, like, Marsha Johnson and Battery Park, they have full-time people. It's just me and maybe 2 or 3 other people who are willing to do this. That's my thermometer, which I love. I'd say that thermometer's about 3 feet long, and you stick it. It goes all the way to the bottom of that container. Mine was orange, this one's green. And in the summer, I get in this active range. That's when things are cooking. And
That's amazing. Can I ask you a question?
sure, please.
How many rounds of composting have you done so far?
How many times have I released a spinner?
Yeah.
30.
Okay.
Let's think it's been 2 years. Every 6 to 8 weeks, I open the top of the spinners and I dump it out and put it over into my final resting thing. One problem with a public park, as opposed to if people want to do it in the backyard, it can be totally controlled. But I do, and even though I use thousands of signs, some people I just see walking along, they open my spinner and put their dog poop in there. And I'm like, no, not there, because that kind of contaminates my results. So that's a little thing I'm working against. And, I am shocked when I see that because those things are not easy to open. You really got to yank them open. This one guy just comes along, opens it, dumps his poop in there. And I'm like, oh no, that was marinating. So, I have to be with my results. I have to be, sometimes it's the 2 Bs I think were probably caused by someone accidentally putting poop in a place that shouldn't be marinating. I caught someone once opening my cooker, even though I have it all sealed off and don't put anything in there. They opened it and put poop in there. So, city living. But anyway, again, we have look at these beautiful trees. I think this is a honey locust. Again, I think our goal at Hillside is clean and green and taking care of our trees, making sure our soil is good, and reuse, just not putting dog waste in those garbage cans and trying to recycle it so we can bring it back into the park. And this again is Big Reuse, which is a great organization. I love them. And they told me they came by the park once and they saw my compost hill and they said, just keep time and heat. Just let it sit there, let it marinate in the sun all summer, and you're going to be good to go. So I think, okay, now we came up with an idea. Again, this is an aerial view of the dog run. As you can see, there's our BQE, which gives off a ton of pollution. We have trees aligned all along those fences there, which is what we eventually want to nourish with our compost. So you see there's a total of 98 trees in the park, and we had an idea that to continue to raise money for our trees, to get them pruned, to continue our composting, to buy scoopers, little essential things we need for this. We started a little donation program. This was not my idea, someone else's. If you donate $50, you get a dog bone with the tree number on it. Basically, you sponsor a tree. So there we hired a company called Urban Arborist to come to the park and put a tag on each tree with a number. If you go to the Hillside website, you go to that number and it says that's honey locust or wherever the tree is. You also see that, say, Willie or Joy sponsoring this tree. So the park users can come to the park and think like, oh, Joy, here's our tree. And it seems to make them happy. And it raised, we got 42 people um, donating for a tree. So we're very happy about that. That was a little. Okay, so I'm to sum it up. I feel like here's how it worked: effective leadership, BHA, Lincoln Rensselaer, and a plan. Believe me, I spent many a nights looking at YouTube videos about composting. Many a bike trips at the Battery Park City dog run, the March of Johnson, the dog run of the Williamsburg, beautiful. Again, they had staff and a lot of money, so I'm a little jealous, but they're doing a great job. We have some enthusiastic volunteers that I'm always amazed when I'm out there doing my thing. They say to me, hey, can I help you? Right, yes, I would love to. I'd love you to help out. We also have organized day events, and our one coming up with the Brooklyn Heights Association is April 26th. We're going to have a big spring into action. It'll involve spreading wood chips, cleaning up garbage, and a few brave people will help me turn the compost pile. Again, we have this lab down in Florida testing away. If anyone wants the results, please email me, be in contact with me, because it's kind of interesting. There we have Cinnamon. I know all these people. Aria and her father Maurice. They're always out there scooping away. We have Max and Levy. They were helping out. Big Reuse, when they came by to do the tree care event, they were really good at, little kids love to help out. Like they love to spread wood chips. They also gave these little rakes. The kids are great. So I love when small children show up, but they also get a little school credit. So I don't know if you showed our certificate, but there it is. When kids help out, we always give this to them and they hand it to their school, which sometimes I get a lot of people email me randomly and say, hey, can I help up with the dog run today? I have to get some credit from my school. I'm like, come on by, we'll put you to work. I even had some woman, I found this, she was great. She got caught shoplifting and she was working off community service at our dog park. Okay, here we go. Well, we just want flowers. We have some daffodils. I don't know how they're coming up, but we just want our trees to stay healthy. We want our soil to be beautiful. If you saw this 3 years ago, that park was a dusty pit. It had no soil. And I just think the more we have on the ground, the more the water is retained, so we don't have all this erosion. And it just smells great in there lately with all our wood chips and hardworking humans and dogs. And it's a good, who needs a gym when you can go to the dog run and wheel around wood chips? It's a good upper body workout. It's a great day to be out in the sun. And anyone who wants to make a trip to New York City on the 26th, please join us. I'll give you a tour.
That's amazing, Cathy. What a great experience. I mean, you really led all this initiative, and it sounds like it's working pretty, like, in a very structured way at this point, right?
At this point, I would love to have a little large spinner somewhere in the back that had electricity. That would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to keep it off the grid for now.
Mm-hmm.
Those little spinners, believe it or not, I think they're $100. They're amazing. They're amazing. And if anyone, you go to YouTube and Google a lot of people are using them just for their own, food scraps at home. A lot of different, there were people using it for dog waste, and they work. They're amazing.
I was going to ask if you had any formal training before, or how did you get the information to know like what to buy, where to get, and the system to compost.
Just field trips to Battery Park City, talking to Jasmine at Battery Park City, and looking what they used, going on watching YouTube stuff, and also asking the folk at Big Use what they did, and just composting in general. It's all about time and heat. That's what they kept telling me. And also, I noticed that I just hate plastic, so I was like, God, it'd be so great if we just eliminate all this plastic from our environment. And someone told me at the dog run that even those plastic bags that say made out of corn, highly compostable, they told me those are even worse because they break down so, I forget, none of the even though they say it's recyclable and all that stuff. I noticed in my spinner every now and then a plastic bag sits in there, gets in there somehow, and like 2 years, it still hasn't broken down at all. I have to pluck them out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have just the right conditions, right, for those bags to compost. That's amazing. I congratulate you, Cathy, on this initiative, and it proves that it can really be done in many different places. It can be replicated, this experience. So thank you so much for sharing with us all that you've done and all that you continue to do for your community. This is very, very inspiring.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I hope other people are willing to take this cause up, whether in a little park or their backyard. Anything helps.
I'll try to pitch this idea here with my park association. I wanted to invite everyone, anyone that has a question. I think we're going to open now to Q&A with Cathy.
Cathy, I'd just like to thank you very much for providing some terrific information today. Your slides were really good, lots of pictures and easy to understand. And you have a really great story to tell. I have one question in terms of how moist your tumblers get and what sort of additive you add to the tumblers to balance out the carbon component to balance out the organic waste.
Yeah, I learned that again on YouTube. In the summer, I just put a little water in there and my enzymes. But in the winter, and then sometimes people weed around the dog run, and I throw those weeds in there. Just people weed along. I don't know why people weed. I grab those, put them in there. I also throw in from my home coffee grinds that are already kind of wet. So in the winter, it's mostly my coffee grinds. But in the summer, I think it's kind of gross, but it's composting tea. It has to be a little moist, and when you spin it, it needs a little water in there to really circulate the pre-bought enzymes I have. So it's a mixture of the dog poop, the wood chips, because when people scoop up the dog poop, they get a few wood chips in there as well. A little water, some weeds from around the park, and some coffee grinds, and that seems to do the trick. I think the Marshall Johnson, they called it like a lasagna, it was like dog poop, greens, enzymes, coffee grinds. So that's how I do it. But I don't know what happens, but after 8 weeks, the water, it's kind of gross, kind of drains out the bottom. I think they call it a composting tea. Then once that you open it up and there's this rich black stuff in there, it's a miracle. Odorless, completely odorless. I bring people over. I'm like, come here, smell this. There's no odor. So that's what my magic mixture is. That seems to be working.
Thanks, Cathy.
Sure.
Thanks very much, Cathy. That was a terrific presentation. Really enjoyed it, and it's such a prototype for other establishments like that to get going. I wondered if anyone else had sort of thought about replicating your project in other places yet.
Have I, or you're asking me or other people on the call?
Well, anyone, yeah, Cathy.
Well, I wanted to reach out to the Brooklyn Bridge Park. That's a very beautiful park right near us that just opened its own dog run, and seeing if they would be interested in trying it out at their little small dog run. I'll get a contact there because I think that's how we can get it going. If the more options people have to compost their dog waste, the better. You know, when you're walking around Brooklyn Heights with your dog, if they just, you know, if they decide to go before you make it to the dog run, you're going to have to pick it up with a plastic bag. But if you're walking through Brooklyn Park and they have composting buckets, but they don't have brown buckets to compost dog waste. Who knows? That might not happen in my lifetime, but you never know. Because there is still enough fat people. They're just like, I can't deal with that. Even in my little, yeah.
Well, I think attitudes have changed a lot, at least here over the last decade. I mean, nobody in areas where I would live would dream of leaving dog poo on the pavement. Whereas, you know, a decade ago, it was just there all the time.
Yeah. No, you're lucky. We're getting there, but there is a lot of certain parts of this. It's bad.
Kathy?
Yes.
Question. Well, comment on the power. If you considered the solar power, you wouldn't necessarily need a battery unless it has to run 724.
I think that's where I have to work with Parks Department. Like that's when I can look into solar, but I did at one point talk to Marty Marr, the head of the Parks Department. He was just like, no, I don't want it. He didn't seem interested in a solar panel or any kind of electric source, but I can revisit that with him.
Yeah, well, if you don't have the batteries are the expensive part, and depends on how much, it'll run by itself during the day. That's how they use for water pumps. They pump during the day. But anyway, I have a couple quick questions for you. What percentage of dog poop are you able to compost now? And can you talk about the enzymes? Are those the enzymes? Is that the same thing you use for anaerobic, or is that something different?
Those enzymes I used, I Googled it, and when I was doing research on YouTube, they recommended it's some pre-bought, pre-mixed dog poop enzymes for, I think it's mostly for people in their backyards when they have the spinners, or
right.
The other question, I would say maybe at the most 30% of our park users are using the buckets.
Right.
Which is fine, because it's still a pilot program. If everyone did, I'd be overwhelmed. I couldn't handle that.
Right.
But I'm totally interested in solar panels, but I think with the New York City, it's that fine line of this is good, it's off the grid, it's small. I think once I think I'd have to ask permission to bring a solar panel in there. They're worried about stuff like that. But I'll revisit it again with my council person in the parks. I love solar panels. We do have a solar panel in there that has at night a few of the trees have these solar lights on them because it gets very dark in there.
Right.
But they're teeny. They wouldn't power a compost thing. And what was the anaerobic? I didn't understand that.
Oh, well, the enzyme I think is something different. When you do anaerobic composting, you have to add I'm not even sure what it is. I don't do anaerobic, but I'll look into the enzymes. I got a picture of that product, so I'll check that out. Out of curiosity though, does anybody know that any animal control facilities like Humane Society are composting dog poop? So far it's been about parks, which is great, but it seems like
that'd be great. I don't know of any.
Yeah. I brought it up to my local animal control facility and told them what I was doing, and the assistant manager she told me it was disgusting. So that's the mindset of some people. It's still,
But in the city, the brown buckets, like now we have to compost our vegetable matter. People found it disgusting, but now we all have to do it. And I think the disgusting, I found those disgusting 10 years ago. We're all doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you, Dan? Where are you located?
Oh, I'm in San Diego, California.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 3 dogs, and I've been composting my backyard dog poop for 2 years now. And I just put it under, I don't put it in the garden, I put it under fruit trees, and I've had it tested once and, let it cook for about 6 months, and it works great. It comes out really good. A lot of worms.
A lot of worms.
I just tested the heat on one just recently. It was 130 degrees. So
Wow.
yeah.
You're lucky you're in San Diego, because New York, we have once September hits, I don't even get it near 90.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, everybody, your experiences in your local areas too. This is great. I think that's what we're about.
Oh,
This network.
Thanks all
Hopefully.
for your interest in Hillside. You can always email me and I can let you know how we make it through this summer. I'm hoping we're going to have a nice, beautiful hill of compost that we can start spreading once 100%, once we ship another batch down to Florida.
I just wanted to thank you again, Cathy, for sharing your experience with us. It's very inspiring, as I mentioned before, and I wish you like the best of luck continuing it, and hopefully that we will hear about ripples from this experience in other places too. I also wanted to thank my colleagues at EnviroPet Waste Network for promoting this kind of conversations. It's very important. Rose for being here with us, Rose and Ruth, our co-founders, and everybody who is trying to really find better ways for doing the things that we like in a sustainable manner. So thank you, everyone. I hope to see you again in our future webinars.